Hello, everyone. Oh, what's that? Okay, I think I got it. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I hope everyone is enjoying their day today. It is Thursday and June 18th. And I am super excited to be here with you guys, continuing our Claude Artifacts series. So if you are here in the chat, go ahead and send me a waving emoji, say hi, let me know where you're tuning in from as we're continuing on week 2 with our Claude Artifacts series. For those of you who don't know who I am Sharon Marie Nolan, and I am a multi-revenue mentor and automation strategist, which basically means I love helping multi-passionate people build multiple income streams in their business without the burnout, setting up streamlined calm systems. So that's my goal. And this week and next week, leading up to our event that I'll talk about later on in the end, we are talking about all things Claude Artifacts. If you guys are not aware of Claude AI, I am a lover of Claude AI at this point, and Artifacts is one of the areas that I have deep dive into a lot. Like at this point, I have like over probably 12 because I haven't done a most recent count since the last time I counted a month ago. So it's probably more than 12 Claude Artifacts at this point. But I have been tweaking and testing and creating and just doing all the things with Claude Artifacts. So I want to share all of that information with you. And today, our topic for this week for the series is what should your artifact do? So, with that said, let me go ahead and share my screen and we can go from there. So today we're going to talk about what should your Claude artifacts do, plus 3 mistakes that can kill your build and building artifacts before they even start. So first up, we'll go over kind of 4 basic artifact types. Of course, you at this point the possibilities are endless, but there's mainly kind of 4 buckets that I like to put artifacts into that we're going to touch on. Then, of course, we're going to talk about the 3 mistakes, like I mentioned, and kind of give like a real example, talk about a real example of another artifact that I made and next steps for continuing on your Claude artifact journey after we adopt this live stream. So, an artifact is not just a tool, it has a job. An artifact is not just a thing you build, an artifact has a job. And if you don't know what job you're hiring to do before you build it, you will build the wrong thing every time. So there's a little pre-work, a little pre-planning that you want to kind of do before you dive into creating artifacts, unless you're just like going from scratch and want to see what Claude can make on his own for you, right? Just based off an idea. Sometimes I would do that. I know I did that in the beginning of like, hey, can you make a Claude artifact that does this, right? And just seeing what it spins up for me and then tweaking it from there. So if you're not going from that method, it's better to have a kind of pre-knowledge of what you want the artifact to do, just in and of itself. So before you build, you want to name the job of the artifact that you wanted to do. And for the most part, you wanted to kind of have it to do one thing if possible. Remember that artifacts are not an actual app, an actual web app, right? So this is not like Lovable or Base 44 where you can have it, this kind of extravagant app. This is just kind of a mini tool. And it's best to kind of have it kind of do one thing kind of well. Even if that one thing has different parts, right? Because you can break it up to do one thing in different parts. That's fine. But your goal should still be to have the tool do one thing really well. So that ultimately means that if you don't know the job that you wanted to do, then you can build your artifact wrong and then spend a whole lot of extra time spinning your wheels of trying to get it to do the thing right. When if you did a little pre-work and a little pre-planning, then you would have been able to create it in like no time, right? Less than 30 minutes sometimes when I already kind of have a detailed plan on the artifact that I want to create. So, and feel free while we're going through this live, if any questions or anything come up, pop them in the chat and I'll take the time to answer them while we're on the stream. Um, just so you know, if any questions come up, that I can be the resource that I am to answer them for you. So, next up, 4 types of artifacts. Again, this is not the end all be all, right? These are just 4 buckets that I've seen across artifacts that are kind of the same. So, a lot of times one artifact that you can create is some type of generator. Input in, finish, content comes out. Basically, super simple, super easy to understand, right? Generate something. So you can feed it information and it spits out the finished piece of content, finished piece of strategy, finished piece of XYZ, right? Right now, you'll see we got captions, we got proposals, we got emails. Anything that you input some information in and you want a certain output, Claude Artifact can 100% do that. So, artifact number 2 would be an assessor. Now, this one is more of an evaluator, something that has like a score or a result or a recommendation that also leans more on strategy or tried and true results or informations or recommendations that you can give based on your knowledge, your expertise, your right, likely your IP somewhat, right? And this works beautifully for lead generation, right? Because this is where you can get into the quizzes, brand audits, diagnostic tools, assessments, have it spit out certain reports, right? If anything that you kind of have that's like a wash, rinse, repeat, um, kind of information that you can give somebody when you assess and evaluate their inputs, you would fall or your artifact will fall into the assessor bucket. Okay. So then next would be the converter bucket. So this is when you basically take one format of something and then you turn it into another format. So like say you have an artifact where you paste in a transcript and you have it um output your preferred formatted blog post or something like that, right? Or you paste in your notes and you have it turn out a report. Or um even though I have audio content on here, I haven't actually tested that to see if you could upload things to artifacts. So that will be something I'm testing um prior to our intensive next week because there's a question that came up when I was making these slides. I was like, oh, I should look and see if that's actually a thing. So I'll let you know for sure by next week. So then the last artifact type would be a guide. And a guide basically walks someone through a process step by step. So that's the one I was talking about having an artifact that does one thing really well, but maybe it's parts to it, right? You can have phases to that one thing that it does well. So this is like when you want to create SOPs, onboarding flows, client walkthroughs, right? You can create like a nice Claude artifact that walks them through the process or journey or of something that you are doing with them or working with them as a guide to show them each step in the process, right? So instead of maybe having to spend your time spinning up, PowerPoint slides that can show that visually, you can create a simple Claude artifact that now shows them and walks them through that process for you um in like less than 5 minutes. Like it literally be that quick. So these are like I said, four kind of buckets. It's not the end all be all, but these are like common buckets that people kind of utilize artifacts for. So again, anybody has any questions, let me know. If you are catching the replay of this live stream, definitely drop your questions and we can continue the conversation um later on as well. So moving on. Okay, now let's get into three mistakes. These aren't tech problems, these are clarity problems. So none of these are about bad tech, so to speak, but every single one of them is more so around having clarity before you go to actually build your artifact. And we're just going to look at them, right? So, mistake number one is again building before you know the job. You want to be clear on what you want the artifact to do. If not, Claude will just spin up what it thinks is good to do, and it may not be aligned with your process, aligned the way your brain works, and gets to a certain outcome, right? Because all artifacts, you're wanting it to have a certain outcome of whatever it's supposed to do. So if you don't have the beginning set up, then it's hard to narrow down or pinpoint the exact outcome that you want at the end. So knowing the job, of course, is important. You built something, you just didn't know what your job was when you were hiring the artifact to do it. 9 times out of 10, when someone says their artifact isn't working, they can't answer clearly what it was supposed to do in the first place. Because again, if you're saying it's not working right, it's likely because you didn't pre-prompt it and give it enough information in the beginning before it actually built it. I like to do a lot of back and forth with Claude sometimes about um the artifact and what I wanted to do before I ever tell it to go actually create it. Right. I even do that with the visuals. I tell it to use, if you're not familiar with Claude, they have what's called visual learning. And it's mainly to take a concept that you want to learn about and make it like a visual representation of it in the chat for you to see it. And I usually just use that interface, since I know it has that interface, to show me design wise um what a certain portion of the artifact can look like, or the entire artifact can look like, before it actually goes build any of the code, right? That's just something I do so that I eliminate again how many times I'm having to go back and change the code and update and all of that, right? I can see visually what I wanted to do, especially if I'm like including some type of animations or transitions or something that I want to look a certain way. I'm saying, hey, show me this, what this looks like visually. Show me all three of these options that you suggested visually so I can see the difference. And then I can choose from there, right? That's just something I always do. So, mistake number two, trying to make one artifact do everything. Again, please note that although it's similar to a lovable or a base 44, it is not, right? There's no real logins, although there is an option where you can use access codes, which we'll dive into during my intensive that we'll be holding next week. There is not login details, right? There is not super intricate workflows and things that an artifact can do. It is simply a tool that you can utilize to likely do one thing in one job. And I see this a lot of people wanting to thinking that Claude artifacts are Claude code. Now, you can use Claude code to do those things, right? If you don't want to pay for a lovable, or you don't want to pay for a base 44 or one of those major tools that's out there to actually build you a web app, You can do Claude Code to do that, but that is separate from Claude Artifacts. And you don't want to fall into that trap. So, big mistake number 3 would be building for yourself only instead of also your client or your audience if this is something that you're wanting to offer as a freebie or offer as a paid product or even utilize with your client one-on-one. And this one is, as you see, I put it's kind of sneaky because sometimes we build things solely for us that works for us, thinking that it'll work for our clients, not considering certain questions or gaps of knowledge or certain information that they would need when interacting with the artifact that we would need because we already have that expertise and that knowledge, if that makes sense. Right. So we want to make the artifact, even the instructions on how to use the artifact in the beginning of what we're telling it can do to be as seamless and easy to understand. Right. Because you don't want them to open up the artifact and not know what to do with it. Right. So your artifact needs to work for the person on the other side of it. You want to ask, would my client know exactly what to do with this? Or are you the only one that gets it? Right. So if any of these mistakes sound familiar to you, because I'm not sure if you're already testing Claude artifacts like I have been, right? Almost obsessed with them. Drop a 1, 2, or 3 to let me know in the chat if you've fallen into one of these traps when trying to build a Claude artifact. Right? Let me know. Let me know. So I'm all about not having people be overwhelmed when they're doing certain things. So the simplified version of how we can do something is always my methodology. So I have a quick 3 question pre-build check that you can do before you build your Claude artifact to stay on track. So question number 1 is, again, said this multiple times through this live stream. What is the one job that you want the artifact to do? Okay, that's the first question. Get that out of the way. Do a brain dump, right? Um, then once you do a brain dump for all 3 of these questions, I recommend doing dump when answering all three of these questions. Ask Claude to uh write you a detailed, comprehensive prompt that you can give it at a later date to create a Claude artifact for you. Right. Question 2, who is using this? Right. Again, is it just something that you're using internally, privately? For instance, if you are on my email list and read my email, I mentioned that I created a live stream run of show or me being consistent with my live streams to know what to do pre-show, during the show, post-show, all of the kind of steps. I made a Claude artifact that keeps that timeline for me that I can have Claude respin up for me each week for each live stream. So that's something that I'm using specifically internally. Don't plan on sharing it, publicly or selling it, making it a freebie, none of that, right? But of course, things would change if I am making it a freebie or I do plan on selling it or I do plan on offering it in a program, something like that, right? So, first question, what's the one job? Second question, who is using this? If it's multiple people using it and not just you want to take into consideration where their sticking points could be. Then question number 3, if you hand this to your client today, would they know what to do? Okay. Simple 3-step check that you can go through before um you start building your artifact. And like I said, it's easier to do a brain dump when answering these 3 questions and then have Claude spin up a detailed prompt for you to give it to create the artifact later. The only other caveat bonus question I would have you to answer is, does Claude already know your branding? Right? So a I guess, question zero or phase zero that I would recommend you do before you do the brain dumping questions and getting the prompts is having your brand information, have Claude trained on your brand information. Now, I created a skill. Well, I created a few skills when it comes to my branding stuff in Claude that I always have it use when creating a artifact, right? So that extra pre-work step, then always make sure that the artifact is spinned up in my colors and my fonts, all of that stuff. So if you haven't utilized skills yet, to be able to do that, that is the easy process too. Um, Anthropic actually has in their skills library a skill creator skill. I would say upload that to your account and then just do brain dumping, like I said, suggested before, and go through the process of creating that skill. So I literally, and this is not hard, guys, I literally took screenshots of my Canva brand kit, right? Because I use Canva. So it has my colors, my fonts, or whatever. Took screenshots of all of that information, uploaded any relevant um graphic URLs for from my website that's already uploaded to my website, gave it that information, and then told it to create the skill for me so that it always knows this is the branding that I want to use across my entire account for anything that I'm creating design wise. So not just skills, Claude artifacts, but across presentations, across PowerPoints, across graphics, everything, anything that I wanted to create design wise, I already have that skill that it can pull on to use. And I can pull in the conversation when I'm having it create a Claude artifact. So that's a pre-work pro tip that I would highly recommend you do, and it's not hard at all. Like I said, I literally just took screenshots and said, "This is my brand kit. Can you make this into a skill?" So, okay. Any questions? Again, feel free to put them in the chat. And we can go from there. And let me see. Any questions? Okay. So we're good. No questions so far. So, okay. Now let's have some fun and actually take this example that I have here and spin up. Oh, actually, I forgot. I already made this, so then now I need to find out where it is. So, um, this particular Claude artifact is an internal tool that I made for myself in regards to keeping track of all of the steps of my client onboarding after the automations that I already have set up for them to get access to the portal and everything after they've paid and signed their invoice and all of that jazz, right? I have a few steps that I have to go through and making sure they have a shared G Drive folder, um, that their project portal information has been updated. Like there's quite a few steps that I wanted, like one kind of internal tool that I keep track of all of those steps to make sure I don't miss anything, especially since I started creating Claude projects to house all of my client information as well. Um, so that if I need to discuss certain things or whatever with Claude about my client, it has all the context about the client, right? So let me go to bring in Let me do a search. Onboarding. Oh, I know where it is, guys. This why let's just tell you, I love the Airtable MCP with Claude because it lets me keep track of all my links and stuff now in one succinct place without me ever having to touch Airtable and be like, hey, go load this link in our base so that I know where it is. Okay. Client system dashboard. Bam. So let me stop sharing this. And then we're going to share this instead so you guys can see. And again, this is an internal tool specifically for me to use. I have different tabs of or just parts of the process that I want to keep track of. So the folder set up with client projects, right? I have a certain kind of title, description, instructions format that I want to use every time for each client project based on if it's a client folder, if it's a pillar project, which is basically how I organize my folders, both here in Claude, in my G Drive. Like I have like a similar filing system, so to speak, right? And then subfolders, right? So this is easy, like copy paste block that I have it had it create. That when I'm creating a new client folder, I can copy that, paste it in there, and it'll be good to go, right? Same thing with the naming of the folders. I have a certain format and way I would want folders to be named and subfolders, right? So all of that is there, easy for me to copy paste. Then the client call workflow. So I also use Notebook LM. If you don't know about Notebook LM, you're missing out. For where I have a specific notebook about my client with all of our call transcripts and stuff in there. And based on that, I now have a workflow process for how I take that transcript and update our call log information so that whenever I need to again talk to Claude about my client, it has all of that transcript summary reference data to stay on track. This is also how I pull action items, right? For new tasks that I need to do for the client, all of that jazz. So this tab is strictly about that workflow and what that looks like during the process, as well as the prompts that I need to use when creating the summary from the transcript in Notebook LM, right? Then I have like quick commands for anything that I'm doing across this process. So I use Crisp AI as my note taker, right? So I have a quick little command prompt about that. Um, a quick little command call about logging the call in my Airtable base where it's supposed to go, right? Different little quick one or two liner prompts. I have it all right here when it comes to the client call workflow. So then references, I have my SOP or whatever that I have for client onboarding linked here. Appendix that I have for that in different files that I upload to each client project. These are templates. So example, this client project brief I create based on the intake form when somebody onboards. So I ask for certain information, their branding, their socials, ask them certain questions or whatever. I take that output, um, paste it in Claude, and then say, okay, take this client project brief template and spin up the new document for me. Then I'll always have that spin up document uploaded into their client project. So this is a whole like process, guys. It's very detailed because with me utilizing Claude more and working with my clients, I wanted it to be as seamless as possible for me to make sure I do all of these steps. And some of these other templates, right, they don't happen till after I have my first kickoff call with the client, but that's all part of the process, right? Then I have links specific to certain Airtable bases that are relevant to the client onboarding process. So, and then this is regarding another form that I use with clients. So, yeah, this is just the tip of the iceberg of certain things that you can set up for yourself internally. Now, another example that I'll show you guys is a lead magnet that I created called the Offer Spark Generator. And this basically has somebody answer 4 quick questions and then gives them output of some suggested um, offers that they can create based on the questions that they answer, right? So, because it's a lead magnet, I made sure that anybody who comes to this page knows exactly what this artifact does, the steps of the artifact, um, have a connection point with them when they're being stuck and trying to decide on offer ideas, right? And then quick answers to a couple of questions that people kind of have. How long does it take? That type of thing. So this literally spins up information for them. So I won't kind of go through this now. If this is something that you want to test, because I shared this again during last week's live stream. Oh, I was sharing my screen and you guys weren't seeing it. It's saying that it's sharing. Let me see. Did all that talking. You gotta love live streams, guys. And okay. So let's go back. This is my client system dashboard. Has a whole bunch of tabs of the entire process of commands and formatting for Claude project folders that I can easily copy and paste whenever I'm setting up a new client in Claude for myself, right? Has the entire workflow for client calls for me, taking their transcript, loading it into Notebook LM, taking this prompt to get a summary about that call in Notebook LM, and then adding it to our call log, right, in Airtable. All of that different things. Then I have other quick commands for logging the call in Airtable, pulling the transcript from Crisp AI, that type of thing, right? Then I have reference links, my actual client onboarding SOP, appendix, different document templates that I upload as reference documents into that Claude project. Right. So it's a whole thing, guys. Quick links to the Airtable bases that I need to go to regarding client onboarding steps. So that was what I was showing before, talking my head off, but you guys weren't seeing it. But that's okay. So then the next thing I was showing was this lead magnet I created that I shared with you guys last week, but I'll drop it in the chat again in case anybody wants to test it out themselves. Um Called the Offer Spark Generator. But basically you answer 4 questions and it generates for you some different um types of offers that you can create based on your answers. And again, with most of these, the more context that you give artifacts, I would say any artifact that anybody shares with you or asks for input like this, the better. So if you are a Whisper Flow user like I am, definitely use Whisper Flow here in Brained Up and answer these questions. Okay. Any other questions so far? Feel free to let me know. And then we'll go back to, otherwise, we'll go back to our slides here. So that was pretty much it today, guys. If anybody doesn't have any other questions, please remember that next week, June 25th, 1 p.m. CST, 2 hours, hosting, or I am hosting my Framework 2 Functional Artifact Intensive. Okay. This intensive is absolutely free. But you will see an option to upgrade for lifetime access. So after the intensive, you'll have 60 days. So from June 25th to sometime in August to access to the replay, to your um dashboard, secret surprise dashboard that I'll be creating specifically for the intensive for you guys to utilize. That'll be like a step-by-step guide for you to walk you through along with you watching the replay video, right? Because I understand maybe not everybody can make it live to the intensive, but by having the replay video and this dashboard that's going to have like checklists and all things for make sure you don't miss any steps in creating your artifact, you will be golden. So um when you do the upgrade, then you'll get lifetime access to the video and that type of stuff. So, but you can completely sign up for free. You don't need a paid account for Claude in order to join and participate in this workshop. You just need to go to this link. And let me hide. Just need to go to this link on my website. So thesharonmarie.com/FFAI. And that's for Framework to Functional Artifact Intensive. Right? Again, this intensive is absolutely free. 2 hours that we're going to spend on taking your framework. Because like we talked about today, having that pre-context is crucial. And if you already have a framework, that is the perfect pre-context that you can give Claude in order to build your artifact. If you don't, if you're a person who doesn't have a framework, don't worry. There'll be some pre-work and everything that you can have that set up before the intensive that we should be going out sometime next week. So if you haven't signed up for the intensive, sign up now and you'll be sure to get that email. And then you'll be ready for the intensive on the intensive day or be able to watch the replay and be ready. Okay. So I wanted to again invite you to join me. Um, this is really me being on the call with you in real time, helping you troubleshoot the issues because, like any other AI and any other tech, Claude is not perfect. Sometimes it'll go rogue and do its own thing, right? There's different nuances and sticking points, especially when if you want to utilize access codes like I talked about, right? Where although it's not a login, you can give somebody a certain code where they would maybe have access to your artifact for a certain period of time, right? That is an option that we can do, but there's steps to that, right? There's troubleshooting that you may have to go through to get that to work properly, all of the things. We are going to dive into all of that during the intensive. So I want to see your smiling faces there. I already have a good number of people that have signed up. You still have time to sign up. I'm gonna leave the page up for everybody to sign up until I think the day of. So I can't remember if I said it the day before or the day of, but you still have time to sign up and it's absolutely free. If you are wanting to set up any type of artifact, even for yourself, right? Internally. Because I don't know about you, but a process is basically a framework. So Even if you need to set up artifacts for yourself internally and not publicly, we can 100% do that during the intensive as well. So that is it, guys. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I will drop the link in the chat for you to sign up for the intensive. Okay, there we go. And then also, if you are not a subscriber to my YouTube channel, what are you doing? You tripping. Please subscribe. I'll drop the link for that as well to make it easy peasy for you to do so. But this is going to be a regular reoccurring thing that I'll be doing moving forward, having these weekly live streams. Now, again, today it was on Thursday. The normal time that I plan on doing these live streams are Wednesday at 10:30 CST. I completely spaced that my dad asked me months ago to take him to the doctor appointment yesterday. So I had to switch things around and switch the time around. So please forgive that reschedule, but I super appreciate everybody that showed up today. And like I said, this is gonna be a new um way that I'm gonna be showing up online consistently. But we're gonna be talking about everything, guys, from um systems to AI to automations to tech tools, which ones are good for beginners or advanced people. Really setting up infrastructure if you're somebody who wants to build a multi-revenue building with business with multiple income streams. Like, we're going to talk about the gamut that is business. I have been a entrepreneur since, gosh, when did I start? 2018. Yeah, right after I had my second son in 2017, and I wanted to stay home more with him because I had him in June of 17. And by the time 6 months came on, I was like, I want to stay home with my baby. So I initially became a virtual assistant and then evolved into more tech and automation lane. But we're going to be talking about all of the things here on this channel. So again, I invite you to join me for next week's intensive, specifically about Claude Artifacts. If you have any questions after this, feel free to still comment on this replay and I will respond to them. Or feel free to shoot me a DM message, Facebook, Instagram. I'm all of the places on Instagram. I am the underscore Sharon Marie. Everywhere else is just the Sharon Marie. Right. My handle account got closed years back when Instagram first came out. Over, I don't even know. They just said I didn't follow their guidelines. And that's what I learned early about the importance of email over just depending on everybody's platform, which we can talk about in future streams as well. But yeah, we're going to continue next Wednesday, 10:30 a.m. For the next part of this series about Claude Artifacts. And then that next day will be the actual intensive. So feel free to show up here. Again, like I said, if you're catching the replay, ask me any questions that you have, and we'll go from there, guys. All right. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys soon.